right now we are going to do editing bootcamp. We are going to just focus on our body. So today we're going to talk about how do I edit my body paragraph, one step at a time. The first thing we're going to look at is our claim. Now, our claims are supposed to be really, really, really short. They're to the point, which means they're direct. They do not add details because that is the job of the reason and the evidence. The job of the claim is to give us sort of a preview. This is what you're going to hear. However, we do not add details to our claim. We save details for what comes next. What comes next is our reasons and our evidence. So our claims tell us what is your paragraph going to be about. And again, this is just one short to the point sentence. So right now, I would like you to take out your notebook. If you need to pause the video in order to do that, then please right now pause the video. You are going to open your notebook to the page that has your body paragraph and underline your claim. Now, the claim that you just underlined, do you have any specific details in the claim you just underlined? If yes, then you may need to move the details to your reason section of your body paragraph. The goal of the claim is only to give us a brief, short preview, and well, that's it. This is an example. This example is from Wizard of Oz, but it is prompt B. So you can see I underlined my claim. My claim is short. It's to the point. It says, in The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy wears red shoes in the movie and not silver shoes. But wait, did I add details? Do I need to know right here that in the beginning of the movie, there's red shoes? Do I need to know something not specific yet? No, I do not. I don't need to know the color of her shoes. That's way too early. Way, way, way too early. So what you could do is you could say, in the Wizard of Oz movie, Dorothy lands in Oz, period. You're just going to introduce what happens. That's it. For prompt A, you're going to tell us what character they chose. What character? So prompt A is just what character did you choose? How did they change? So the only goal of prompt A is change. What change did the character you choose makes? And that is the only goal of this claim. If you did prompt A, and of course, prompt C is to tell us what your theme is. So in your claim, you would just tell us what the theme is. So your evidence is a quote. That's pretty much it. If you chose prompt B, then you may have to do a summary for the movie. However, you could also look up movie quotes on a Google search, and then you would be able to do a quote. So for your evidence, you're just finding a quote. A quote is literally any sentence that you copy word for word from the book and put quotation marks around. You do have the option of summarizing the movie for your evidence if you're using prompt B. However, most of you will just be finding a quote from the book that kind of shows what you're talking about. Here's an example. I highlighted my evidence in yellow in this example. And the first one says, in the book, a house lands on a witch and then Dorothy gets new clothes. Now, there's something wrong about this. See if you can spot it before I tell you. The thing that's wrong about this first quote right here is that I'm paraphrasing. I didn't find an actual quote. I just paraphrased what happens, and that's it. Now, for your essay, you need to find a quote as your evidence. I did not find a quote in this example, so I need to fix it. My second quote says, in the movie, Dorothy lands on a wicked witch and puts on red shoes. Now, I'm allowed to do a summary for the movie. However, this summary is lacking a lot of details. So your evidence is allowed to be short, but make sure the details you choose to put in your summary go back to the claim. So here's an example. I fixed the first one. So now what I did is I went to Lit to Go. You can find it by doing a Google search, Lit number 2 Go, The Wizard of Oz. And then I found a quote and I said, in the book, Dorothy gets caught in a cyclone and taken to a new place. So what I did is I'm using the second bullet point right here in title of book or story, in this case, Wizard of Oz. In The Wizard of Oz, I summarize the events leading up to the quote and then I give the quote. So in the book, Dorothy gets caught in a cyclone and taken to a new place. So I gave the title of the story and I summarized events leading up to the quote. And then I actually wrote the quote. There, indeed, just under the corner of the great beam the house rested on, 2 feet were sticking out, shod in silver shoes with pointed toes. This scene is important because it shows the shoes that will eventually take Dorothy home. So my evidence now makes sense. I have a quote, and I even gave us some content so I know what's going on in the quote. The next step is to explain your thinking. Now, when you explain your thinking, your reasons can be as long as you want them to be. This is where you really want to take your time. Your claim should be kind of short and sweet. Your evidence should not be too long, but your reason should be. You should take your time to really explain your thinking because that's where you make or break your essay. That's where you can take a B paper and turn it to an A. If you choose prompt A, then your reason will kind of compare and contrast. Prompt A is showing the change in a character. So, in reason 1 and evidence 1, you're going to show me what the character is like at the beginning, and you're only going to talk about the beginning in reason 1, evidence 1. That way, when you get to reason 2 and evidence 2, you can talk about the end of the story, but also you can talk about how that's different from the beginning, from what the character is like in the beginning. So, your reason, you're going to take your time, explain exactly what you are thinking. If you choose prompt B, then you are comparing and contrasting what happens in the movie to the book. So, your first reason and your first evidence should be about what happens in the book. You're just like you see in this example. And reason 2, evidence 2, compares that to the movie. Now, like I said before, this right here would not be an A paper because the reasons right here, this scene is important because it shows the shoes will eventually take Dorothy home. That's too limited. That's not saying enough about the entire story. It's not telling us about that scene at all. It's just focusing on shoes and that's it. I need to know more. You got to dig a little deeper than just saying this. This would not be an A paper. This may not even be a B paper. So you're going to improve on this example by talking about the scene as a whole and not just focusing on one thing. My second evidence is highlighted in yellow also, and it says, in the movie, Dorothy lands on the Wicked Witch and puts on red shoes. Well, those of you who are in class when we watched the movie remembers it is way more complicated than that. There's way more that happens. But in my evidence, I'm just talking about shoes and what happens to the house. So this evidence could have a lot more so we can really get the picture of the scene because again we're not talking about just shoes. We should be talking about an entire scene, one entire thing that happens. Because I chose in my claim to talk about something really specific, the shoes, I have less to say in my reasons. So my second reason, the shoes in the book are silver. At the end of the book, her shoes are not clicked 3 times to get her home. I have a lot less to say in my reasons because my claim was way too narrow. Way too narrow. So make sure your reasons go into more depth. Even if you think it's obvious, still say it. Better to get it on paper than to not. And for the third prompt, which is to choose a theme, you are going to use the evidence to show an example of your theme in the book. Show it happening. Show the lesson in